Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. Now in this picture the lighting has brought out the texture in the surface of the subject, but it's not always obvious just how to do that. So in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. Okay, so this is going to be our subject, this orange. So what I'm going to do is place the orange on a piece of steel rod which will support it. So all I'm going to do here is just pierce the orange with the steel rod, like that, so that it sits on the rod like so. And then I'm going to attach that to this retort stand. Now on the edge of this retort stand here I have a couple of magnets, so I can stick the rod to the magnets like so. There we are. So that gets our subject in place, and by using it like this it will be easy, or easier anyway, to get rid of the rod in post-production later, but I'll show you how I do that. Okay, so the next thing to do would be to set up a background, and for the background I'm going to use this 216 diffusion material. So what I'm going to need to do is just place this C stand round the back here somewhere, like that, and just pop this on there like so. Okay, so this will probably need to go into the air a little bit, something like that. If you remember when you saw the image at the start, there was a blue background, and I'm going to show you how I created that as well. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to need is my camera. So I have this full frame digital SLR with a 24-70 zoom lens on the front and a flash trigger on the top. The whole thing is tethered into Capture One software, so it's easy to show the results as we go along. So I just pop this on this tripod. Okay, so I'll have a go at lining everything up. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just zoom that into the 70mm end on the lens. Just focus that up a bit, something like that. And I'll just drop the camera down so that the subject's in the center of the frame. Maybe move it over slightly. There. Okay. So with that lined up, what I'll do now is just turn the camera on, like so. And the software has recognized the camera. And this little panel over here is showing me what the settings are on the camera. So it's in full manual mode. I'm using a shutter speed of 1/250th of a second, which is the flash sync speed for that camera. ISO is set to 100 and the aperture is set to f8. So with those settings, what I'm going to do is just capture an image just to see, just to make sure really that we're not getting any contamination from the house lights. Do that, and there you are. So with no flash we're getting very little image. There is a tiny amount of highlight on the surface there, but nothing to worry about. Okay, so with that experiment out of the way, it's time to set a light. So what I want to do is light this in such a way to bring out the texture on the surface of this orange. Okay, so here we are. I have this Profoto B1X. This is a 500 joule battery powered studio head, and I've put that on this C stand so that I can, initially anyway, get the light very close to the orange. So what I'm going to do is just swing this boom arm down a little, so that we're about here somewhere, something like that. are. So with the light this close to the orange, the fall off due to the inverse square law will be very, very abrupt. So let me just turn this on. That. And initially this is just set on an arbitrary energy level about halfway along its scale. So just with that as it is, we'll grab an image and just see what happens. Okay, so we can see straight away from this image that the exposure is way over, so I need to take some energy out of the system. So what I'll do is just select that head, that is head B, and we'll take 3 stops off that to start with, like so. And we'll give that another go. Right, so with that correction to the exposure, it's possibly a little underexposed now, but you can see the texture is starting to come out on the surface of the orange here. And the background is completely black. Now the background is black because we're getting a huge fall off here. The distance between the subject and the background sheet here is quite large compared to the distance between the head and the subject. Okay, so the other thing to just note about this image is the amount of fall off that you're getting across the subject itself, across the orange. And I think that needs to be adjusted a bit. So what I'm going to do is move the head further away so that we get a more gradual fall off over the surface, but we should still get quite a lot of surface detail. So what I'm going to do is just swing this around here like this, and we'll just repoint that at the orange. Something like that anyway. We might need to do some fine-tuning, but we'll see how we go. Now obviously I've moved that some distance away, so it was just here and now it's back here. So I'm going to need to add some energy to compensate for that change in distance. So I'll initially add 2 stops to that and to see how we go. Like so. We'll just grab that again. Right, so we're starting to get there now. You can see that we're getting quite a lot of nice texture in here on the surface of the orange, and the graduation is not quite as sharp as it was before. I think overall the exposure is still a little low, so I'm just going to add another stop of energy to that. Just add one more stop. We'll grab that again. Yes, that's better. So the orange is coming out quite nicely. So we are getting a little bit of contamination now on the background. And I want this background to be completely black at this stage. So in order to achieve that, what I'm going to do is just use a piece of card with an elastic band on it. And I'm just going to place this on the side of the head. There we are, just to form a flag in effect, just to stop the light getting to the background. So with that in place, I'll just grab another image and we'll see what we get. There, that's much better. So now you can see that the background is completely black, and we've got a good exposure on the subject on the orange itself. Okay, so now it's time to create that background. So for that, I'm going to need another flash head. So here we are. I've got another Profoto B1X flash head. So what I'm going to do is just place this round the back of the diffusion material, pointing at the subject. So I'll put it fairly close like that. And we'll just turn that on. And I'm also going to turn on the modelling light on that head. So with that on, next thing I'm going to do is just start up live view on the camera. Now I'm going to do that so that I can see where the hotspot is through the camera whilst being at the back. I'll show you what I mean. So if I just turn that on like so. So now you can see this is the hotspot and this is the subject. So if I now just turn this screen so I can see it from the back, like that, I can now use that as a guide to get this in the right place. So if I move this from side to side, for instance, you can see the spot moves. So I need to take it down a little. That. Maybe a bit more. But it does make it considerably easier to set these sort of things up if you can actually see what you're doing. So just bring this down here like that. Okay, so I think initially that's probably good enough. I'll turn the modelling light out at this stage, don't need that anymore. Okay, so we'll come out of live view like that. And again, just with an arbitrary energy level on the one at the back, I'll just grab an image and we'll see what we get. Okay, so that's not looking too bad at all, actually. It looks like it's getting a nice graduation across here. But obviously, there is no colour in this. So to add some colour, I'm going to add this gel to the light at the back. And once again, just grab an image. There we are. That's really starting to come together now. But the graduation here is falling off a little quickly, I think. So I'd like to make that a little less abrupt. And the way to do that is to move the light at the back. So as it is at the moment, it's relatively close to this background sheet. So if I now just try and move that straight back, just to there, you don't really need to move it very far to have quite a large effect. In fact, what I might do is just temporarily turn the modelling light back on and just pop into live view and just make sure that is in the right place, which it isn't. So we'll just move that ever so slightly and just drop it down a little bit. There, that's better. So we'll just come out of live view and grab an image. You can see that the graduation that we're getting now is a little more of a gradient going over to the corners than it was before. So the next thing to address is this deep shadow on the side of the orange here. So I just want to fill that in, and again just going to use a piece of card and I'm just going to hold it in position somewhere down here just to fill that shadow in. But you do have to be a bit careful doing this. If you get it too close, it will put too much light back onto the subject. So if I put it in here, for instance, and now just grab an image, you can see that we're now getting another hotspot on this side, and it's destroying the surface quality that we had before. And that's purely because of the position of this. So if I now move this much further away, if I put it down here, for instance, grab that again. Now we have a little bit of fill in here. So that's with no fill in at all. That's with too much. And that's possibly too little. So it needs to be somewhere in between. So I'll just pop that about here somewhere. A bit of trial and error just to get it in the right place. In fact, I might bring it up ever so slightly like that. There, that's better. That's the sort of thing I wanted. So we're getting quite a lot of nice detail in here now, and the background's looking good. But we still have this rod holding up the orange, and we want the orange to appear to float. And the way to do that is really quite simple. So what I'm going to do is just move the subject out of the way and grab another image. just of the background. And by doing that, I'll end up with what's known as a blank slate. And I can use that in post-production to get rid of the support. Okay, so off we go then. So I'll just take this and just move it out of the way. And we'll just grab another image. It's always best to grab more than one, just to make sure. There we are. Okay. So with that now captured, what I'm going to do is go into Photoshop and do the post-production. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and I've loaded up the picture of the orange and also the background without the orange in the picture. So what I'm going to do is just make a stack of these two images. So I'll go to File, come down to Scripts, load files into stack. I'll ask it to add the open files and just click on OK. There we are, and you can see over here that now I have each file on a different layer. So this is the one with the orange and this is the one without it. So now it's just a case of adding a mask to this image. So I'll just do that. And now wherever I paint in black on this mask will reveal the image which is below it, which is the graduation, the graduated background without the orange. So I'll just make sure that the foreground colour is black. Pick a paintbrush. Now I actually want it relatively hard because I want to try and match the edge at the bottom here. So I'll just make it quite a hard brush, maybe a little bit bigger. I'm going to zoom in to make it easier for me to see what I'm doing, just at the very bottom. So we'll go to 200%. Pick the paintbrush again. Ooh, possibly a bit big at this stage. Let's take that down. There we are. Right. So now if I just get fairly close, there we are. I should be able to just take that out. Because we didn't touch anything else, these two images match precisely. And that's why it's a lot easier to use a blank slate for this sort of thing than it is to try and clone parts of the image. So just to finish that off, just pick the brush again, make it a bit bigger. We'll just get rid of that. Okay, so now I can zoom out the rest of the way. There we are. And with that exercise complete, it just remains to pick a crop. So I'll just use the crop tool. I'm going to pick 16:9 because this is going to be destined for the video, but obviously you can pick something that suits the subject. So I'm just going to zoom that in a bit, maybe center it up. Just like that. There we are. I'll click on the OK. And there we have it. There we have a fully floating orange on a blue graduated background. And by lighting it in that way, I've been able to emphasize the surface texture on the orange, and yet still get a very good graduation across its surface. And I think all in all, that has worked very well. Okay, well I hope you liked seeing how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other pictures as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Oh, and click the like button. Thank you very much for watching.